Thank you guys for tuning in. We got our host Fyzee and Sydney from Migrant in Australia.
Being an immigrant, things are definitely not easy, especially when you're not familiar with anything. Sydney and I both came to Australia as immigrant, and we didn't really have any sort of support or a community. So this is why we're here.
We want to build this community to help any immigrants get started investing and creating wealth in a new country, to be financially confident and teach the next generation about money.
Perfect. So Sydney, introduce yourself once again. Who are you?
All right, who am I? I'm Sydney. Nice to meet you all. And I came to Australia in 2008. So currently I am 30 years old. So I've been here for a decade and a bit more now.
Yeah, insane. Time flies. And myself, my name is Fyzee. I came to Australia in 2007. I'm from Pakistan originally. And I am 24 years old, turning 25 this year.
So, bro, you're still in your 20s?
Mate, the 20s have flown by, honestly. I'm already going to be halfway and I'm sort of having a quarter life crisis.
I was going to say quarter life crisis at this age.
God, yeah. It happens. It's happening a lot now, but yeah. But in this episode, as you can see by the title, we want to explore the differences between first, second, and third generation immigrants, and obviously, what their qualities are and what's interesting about them. So I guess we'll just dive into it. First of all,
let's probably dive in on why we want to talk about it, because then this topic popped up in our mind a couple of weeks ago recently, because it was in the news. The census data for 2021 just got released, so officially Australia has become a majority migrant nation.
Yeah.
So that means for the first time ever, more than 50% of residents or people living in Australia were born overseas or have an immigrant parent.
Yeah, we did it. We contributed to that. But, I just want to put a side note in. I think 7 News or 9 News shared that statistic on Facebook. And it was the funniest thing. I saw the Facebook post and it had just angry reacts from like all these just people,
I want to see
Aussies. And they were just commenting about how, this is bad and they're going to ruin Australian values. And it was very funny. I found it very amusing. I always like reading things like this, even though it's pretty negative, but it's just hilarious. I always see like just angry reacts on posts like this, anything to do with like, stuff that's sort of changing about the Australian landscape. So pretty funny. But yeah, you go on, Sydney, with what you were...
All right. So pretty much, that's how we come to the discussion on this topic. And then a couple of things we started talking about is an immigrant, as we all know, when you migrate to a new country, officially become an immigrant because you're new to learning the culture, values, language, and it's difficult. It's always hard. But then what happens if you get used to it and then you have kids there? Officially, that is your second generation that's actually growing in the country. And then they will probably have a bit of a struggle trying to decide, are they... in this case, are they Australian or are they from their parents' country?
Yeah. And I think for myself, it's pretty interesting because I'm obviously first generation. I was born in Pakistan, but my youngest sister was born here. So, I often ask her these questions about sort of who she identifies as. And obviously she's very young, like whatever, she doesn't care about this. And she always like calls herself Australian and she doesn't want to speak our language and she really wants to sort of be the Aussie or whatever, which is interesting because I take pride in knowing Urdu and speaking Urdu at home, and which is our language. But I think once you're born here, you sort of just don't really want to. Well, I only have one experience to really go back with, but I think once you're sort of born here, you just want to embrace the Aussie lifestyle, I guess. What do you think?
No, I was going to say, because first generation immigrant here, just came here, my parents speak Spanish, and pretty much I reckon I will say, yes, you feel that you're more attached to your motherland, your home country, where you were born, where you grew up, where you were raised, that sort of stuff, and the values and all that. You bring that here. And then as you get accustomed to the new country, officially you're an immigrant, you migrated, you get used to all the culture, values, and you start learning the stuff. That I reckon you get to a point that it's a bit of a clash, that you feel that you're in the middle. Because your friends and family that stayed back home, they see you, oh, you're an Aussie. And it's funny because even if you speak the same language, even if you go back and see them, they see you in that way because, oh, you're coming here for a holiday, you don't live here anymore. So officially you're not a local per se.
Yeah, you've kind of changed, They always say, oh, you've changed, you're looking this, that. But at the same time though, the people back home should not expect a person to stay the same. Like they've gone to a completely new country where things are just different. So of course, you are going to adapt some things and they can be good things, bad things, but you definitely are not the same person you were And you definitely do sort of leave some things behind and you turn into a different person a little bit. Yeah.
I think it's probably like the frame of reference when they met you, you were a kid or whatever age you were, and then you left, and suddenly when they see you back, it's like you're older or you're a man now. That's that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So that it's a bit of a shock too.
100%. It's so relatable because whenever I go back, they always say, "Oh, you were just a little kid doing this, whatever." When we saw you, and now you're, finished uni and you're doing this, whatever, and you've changed, whatever. Yeah. Yeah, think people change, things change.
What do you reckon? Do you think there's some clashes between you and your sister?
I think
just because of that, like that little difference.
Look, I think there are a few. The main thing would be probably like language, because she can understand when we speak in Urdu, but she doesn't want to admit it, and she doesn't want to speak it either. Like it's pretty funny. Like I would have thought that, like at least I would want her to at least learn it and learn to speak it because it's important. Like I feel it is. Even though if she's going to stay here, she's probably not going to use the language as much as she would. But I think it's important. And obviously, she doesn't think it is. And some things about...
And then you guys travel back home together to see family?
Yeah, we have, yeah. And obviously over there, they're not speaking English at all. And I remember her saying like that she doesn't like going over there at all. She doesn't like going to Pakistan because it's just, because she's lived her whole life in Australia. Like it's a huge shock to see things that are just so different. And look, I don't blame her for that either. I mean, it's for a young kid just seeing completely different worlds. You wouldn't want to stay in Pakistan. Yeah.
It's a different way of living, pretty much. So it is, especially 100%. If you get used to like the Australian living standards.
Yeah.
Hey, keep in mind, even because we saw that, we grew up with that. Still, when you go back home, it's a holiday, and it's still a bit of a shock. Because you know what you're going to see, you know what's going to happen, but still you feel out of place.
Yeah, I'd say so. I feel like I've come to know what to expect.
It's like your standards went up a little bit.
Yeah, sort of. But I guess when I go back to Pakistan, I just know what I'm going to expect. So there's no sort of issues with that. But it's just more, I think it just highlights the fact that the life in Australia is so much more better, and you have to be extremely grateful for that. Like that's the thing that really gets highlighted to me. Because the type of things that you sort of see over there, you do feel very like grateful that obviously you're in a better situation. Yeah, for sure. That's the main thing that's for me that is like a reinforcement every time. But apart from that, I feel like everything else is pretty expected. Yeah.
All right, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, what about your friends that you met here? Have you found anything, any perspectives, anything that you've discussed with them?
I think we're pretty much on the same page about like sort of like in terms of the things that we want to keep, which is our sort of cultures and values and language. We are all pretty like, on board with the idea of speaking our language here. But yeah, I think it's pretty similar, to be honest. Nothing too unique, I suppose. What about you?
I reckon my experience has been funny because, especially for first gen, when you meet people that are here either for like a student visa or if you're just on a backpacking visa just for here for a holiday, it's been funny because you just switch on, especially when you're fresh and you pick it up from the way they're talking or things that they say. And when they find that you're fresh too, pretty much, and then it just clicks. Because the funny thing is like there's 20 other countries that speak Spanish in Latin America.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which country you're from. The moment you start speaking Spanish, they'll pick it up.
That's so good.
You just become friends.
Yeah.
That's it straight away. On that now when you go out and sort of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah. And then I reckon that's another thing as well. Because I met a lot of people that are second generation, as you do, because there's a lot of people here that have migrated like decades ago, and then they have kids now and they're going out and sort of stuff. And you bump into them and it's a bit of a clash, because then it's like, yes, they don't speak full Spanish, but they do Spanglish.
Yeah.
So that's a funny thing. So it's a mixture between English and Spanish. So you get along with them because that's the other thing. Like they're friendly because they're used to that mood pretty much, especially as well. You're going out, it's a party pretty much. So you're friendly either way. So I think that's the main experience that I've seen a lot.
Yeah, I guess with first generation immigrants, they definitely are like super proud of sort of where they come from, and they want to preserve those values. And obviously they're very hardworking and grateful, which is obviously a generalization, but I think that's what I've experienced. Would you say the same as well, that they're very hardworking? That's like no question at all, especially from developing countries. But
hey, I was going to say, well, you're probably generalizing, but there's some stats that I remember a couple of months ago they released them because then it was on the AFR saying that migrants pretty much attend uni at double the rate compared to locals.
Okay. Yeah.
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 So
okay,
officially, you can say that they like studying more. So working into that perspective.
True that. Yeah. I think studying is very big in our countries for sure. And yeah, uni is obviously an indicator of those values. Yeah. But then I guess when we move on to third generation, which is like, I don't think I've met many Pakistanis that are third generation in Australia, like straight up. I just haven't. So I can't really comment too much on this. But if I was to sort of, again, predict how they would behave, I think they would be like fully behaving like full Aussies, and they would.
So it's going to be your kids in the future. That's what you say.
Yeah. Second gen would be my kids. But yeah, I think, I don't know. It would be hard to, I think they wouldn't go back to Pakistan as much as obviously second and first gens. And I think they would not know how to learn to read. They would not know how to speak or read Urdu at all.
I reckon by then it'll be a bit harder to keep that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you can't blame them for that. Australia's all they know. That's all their parents know. So yeah. But I think that's what I would predict if there was like a general third gen person. But what about you? If you look at third gen.
Pretty similar, because then I've met a lot of people pretty much that are like third gen, but then they still have that connection back home because, lucky and good for them, their grandparents are still alive. So they still have that connection that they're forced to speak Spanish to the grandparents. Parents still travel, even though we're born here, and they still travel over there to see family that they connected with years ago, that sort of stuff, and then they go with them. So that connection's still there. I gotta say, that'll be probably rare, because trying to keep that connection as well, the family happy, especially if they're overseas and seeing them, that sort of stuff, that's I reckon hard for the family too.
Yeah, and the other thing is they're so far away. I would feel that most third gen people that are born here would just like not even bother unless there is, you know what I mean? Like it's just tough. The person is so far away, developing country, not the great things that we have here. Why would they even sort of bother to keep in touch? I don't know. I guess if they don't have any immediate family there, they wouldn't. But yeah, if they have immediate family, like you said, yeah, they would. But yeah, interesting.
All right. What about changing back the topic on generations and let's say building wealth? What do you think? Yeah.
Okay, I like this because if you look at first gen, and obviously once again, this is a big generalization, whatever, you know, that's all we can talk about. I think they come to Australia and they see immense opportunity to create wealth and create a life here. And I think that is how I view it as well, being first gen. I feel like in terms of building wealth, there are so many different things you can do. And it's insane how, you know, big the world is and what sort of opportunities that Australia provides, which I think if I was living back in Pakistan, that would simply be like not the case. Yes, there would be opportunities, but you wouldn't be able to capitalize on them as well as you could here. So I think when I look at it from my perspective, I think there is immense opportunity here. There is so much you can do. And maybe if you are someone that's probably born here, you may not be able to see that because this is all you know. But once you come from a developing country to Australia, you just have two different perspectives, right? And perspective is the thing which allows you to see like crap. There's so much out here. So I think building wealth is, I think first gens really sort of see what they can do. What about you?
Do you reckon that's maybe linked to the, I'm trying to remember what's it called? It's like having like a rich mindset or like a poor mindset?
Could be, yeah. I suppose so, yeah. But yeah. And the thing is, this type of mindset, anybody can adopt it, even people that were born here. But I feel like if you were from first gen,
I get what you mean, because then pretty much if you think about like Australia and then you think about small businesses, you think immigrants.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, that's a thing that's pitched pretty much in all of the news and that sort of stuff. And it's true.
Yeah.
Because we're a country of like small shops and then they're all pretty much run by immigrants.
Yeah. Because, you know, they took a massive risk in coming here. So they're still
taking risks because it's a business that they're running.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, they just feel like, you know, they did it once. They've got it in them to persevere and sort of keep on going, and they do it. And man, these guys are the real heroes, honestly. My dad didn't do what, like, obviously start a business or anything when he came here. Just coming here was a massive risk in its own, but to take a further risk on when you have like young kids, I mean, it's insane. Like, I don't think I'd be able to do that if I was in that position. Yeah, so props to them. But I guess we move on to second gen and building wealth. What do you reckon? Because this is something that I'll talk about as well. But you go first.
Let's see. We'll probably need to get the community to help us out and then give us the experiences too on this one.
Yeah.
But then I reckon second gen, if first generation did well, and let's say they go to the stage that they were able to get a small business running. We're not saying that they're rich. We're just saying that they run a small business and they pay the bills. That's a lot of them. And then that means that they got lucky enough and let's say they bought a house, that sort of stuff. Second gen is there just to thrive on that base.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if that family got lucky, because there's going to be a lot of them that probably came in and then they struggled, but then that second gen was the one able to help them lift themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And obviously there would just be, like, if they're from like countries like ours, they would be more likely to obviously support their parents in sort of, maintaining their wealth and like kind of building on top of that. Yeah, as you said. What would you say in terms of...
I was going to say, before you move on, what do you think about having multiple generations in a family? Because I reckon that's very common, especially like, first and second gen immigrants.
Yeah, like living together?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's common. Yeah, it would be. Because look, the thing is, generally, we are quite big on community and we are quite big on family, communal living. So it's no surprise that stuff like this happens where you have like a grandpa in the house, then you have sort of maybe your parents and then you, and then maybe, your siblings. So it's like a 3 generations in one type of thing. Yeah, I think it's very common because we really like to take care of our own. Obviously not saying other people don't, but like that's what, there's a focus on that and can be
I gotta say that sounds really good to save a lot of money. Yeah. That sounds really bad on your mental health.
Yes, look, 100%. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a perfect system, by the way. Hell no. Obviously there's issues. You have like no sort of privacy. There's, everybody just knows everybody's business, and it's all that. So it's not perfect, but it's just how we like to do it and how people tend to do it from where we come from. Yeah. But I was going to say, do you have any other thoughts on that, by the way? No. I was going to say, in terms of mindset in building wealth, what would you say people what do you think their mindset is if they're second gen, if they want to sort of build wealth?
That's a good question. Because then you second gen, I don't know, I think when you're second gen, you probably see your parents and they probably work so hard. They struggle so much. Whatever they build, whatever they didn't do, they didn't do. So maybe you go the way that, you know what, I probably can enjoy myself because I cannot do what my parents did. Because then I reckon that happens a lot. You feel a bit defeated when that happens. Or as well, you can, the other side of the coin, maybe you see your parents and it's like, you know what, I want to help my parents. And then you're the one that starts driving forward.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so you reckon like second gen people probably get a bit sort of complacent, or they sort of
I reckon they do.
If their parents would manage to work extremely hard, you reckon? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
When you say they manage to work extremely hard, but then let's say they did the hard work, the high yards, but life is life.
Nothing came out of it.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to see. Like, I'm not trying to pitch it like the dream that you're going to make it.
Yeah, if you just work hard, like that's the path. Yeah, yeah, true. I think, say their parents managed to work extremely hard and life is life, as you said, and they couldn't just, they're still stuck in that cycle, whatever, they couldn't make it out. Then I think, 100% you'd have a much more pessimistic view of the world. You wouldn't view Australia maybe like your parents did, where it's like this place where huge opportunity, you can do whatever you want, I think you'd have a much more, horrible view. But say if your parents did manage to work hard and they made it and you got a comfortable life, I think then you would, in terms of mindset, your mindset would shift to, I feel like, someone who sees the problems in Australia and you start to sort of pick apart Australia in a way, you know what I mean? Where you don't see Australia for the opportunities, you see it for all the divisive stuff and whatnot. And I think you might go down that pathway, if that makes sense. Do you get what I mean? Like you don't see Australia as a place where there's a lot of opportunity and you can be great, whatever. You see it as, you look at the inequality here and you sort of become that person. You know what I mean? I don't know what I'm saying. But
No, I know what you mean. Because then you're trying to say it's you become polarized to what you're living at, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because you've had the comfortable life. Maybe you have the realization that there are others that maybe are not so fortunate. So you think about, so you go down the pathway of like things are not as good as we thought or whatever. I don't know, something like that. But yeah,
what are you trying to say? What's happening? Is your neighbor? Is it a friend?
No, just saying whatever's in here out loud. But yeah, looking at probably third gen, then building wealth. I can't even comment much on this, so anything I say is just going to be a wild, like, generalization. But what do you think in terms of mindset and building wealth?
I reckon you'll be more of a, maybe it's a bit generational too, depending on what age you are. Because I will say third generation, and let's say you're Gen Z, it's different, especially the workplace, on your belief system, that sort of stuff. Yeah. I reckon that caters as well. Because then I'm going to say you'll be looking at being more comfortable because you're local. That means your family has been here for a while. So you got that support network, friends and family that can help you out, like get jobs and work and all of that sort of stuff. And even helping you in, if you want to go to uni, if that's an option, is, hey, so how do you even apply to go to uni? How do you write an essay? How do you do an assignment? That sort of stuff, especially if you want to go that route. Or maybe you into trades, that maybe you get a family member that actually is already a tradie and then they can help you out on what you can specialize on. But then I reckon that's the main difference is your support network. Because the first generation didn't know anyone. They came here knowing nothing and no one and barely speaking the language. Then second gen will probably help them. And then that's when you slowly start building that support network, because I reckon that's very important too. Because then you don't make it on your own here. Like you gotta make friends, and then like family helps a lot too. But then third gen, I reckon they'll probably already have that in place, so they can take advantage of it. That is if they do, because then that's the other option. Maybe they don't care.
Maybe they just don't want to keep in touch with anybody in there. You could have that. You could have pretty interesting. But I think, man, that's all I've got to say on this topic for now. I think there's a lot to go into. Do you have anything to add for?
No, I reckon we've covered everything. Is there any last touches that you want to say? Anything, last comments?
No, look, I was going to talk about some issues we had with the podcast, but I think we're going to have issues.
This is the second time recording the new recording studio.
Yes. I can't believe we're saying the word studio, and it's our studio. Not really, but let's pretend it is. Yeah, it's great.
All right, doing good.
But yeah, we're moving up in the world slowly. But look, in this podcast, of course, our goal is to help every first, second, and third gen immigrant in Australia as little or as much as we can, because obviously we didn't have the support when we came to Australia. Being an immigrant, our experiences have an added complexity. There is a new language to learn, new culture. Oftentimes you don't have any friends or relatives to guide you, so it can be pretty tough. So if you're new to Australia, obviously reach out to us. Or if you even have been here for a bit of time, still reach out. We are wanting to build a community of immigrants that are willing to help each other, and we can obviously support each other with whatever is necessary. We can't give financial advice, but we can obviously help out. And if any part of this podcast resonated with you, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It does help us quite a bit. And lastly, do follow us on our Patreon for exclusive content, our socials, and share us with your friends and family. Thank you for listening. Cheers.